What the Darkness Tells Us, Episode 0, Pandora's Hatch. Roles: Electrician Wyatt Grayson, as played by Anthony Cannon. Narration also played by Anthony Cannon. Mysterious Voice, as played by Unknown. Head Researcher Dr. Baker, as played by Wolf of Dimensions. Cold Open, also performed by Wolf of Dimensions. Location: Nevada, USA. Date: February 1st, 1982. Time: 1200 hours. It was a dry, dreary day in the expansive Nevada desert. The sun was hidden behind a thick, foggy layer of gray clouds, as if the heavens tried to offer the hot, sun-baked land some trivial respite from the usual sweltering temperatures. However, the distant cracking of thunder would emphasize how short an amount of time that gifted shade could be enjoyed. A large storm was on its way, one that would signal the humbling of mankind. In this flat plain, only one thing stood out in the growing tempest: a set of plain buildings pushed together with no space in between. A singular entryway was at the south end. If one followed the road out from the parking lot, a large white sign buried in the ground by two legs had the words U.S. Outpost 4 printed in large black letters.
Aw, hell. If I don't hurry up, I'm gonna get caught in a whole fucking downpour, Wyatt grumbled as he fumbled with his keys. These big shots in their fancy labs, they don't pay me enough to send me out in this damn wasteland. The frustrated man had been contracted by the government to fix a light in one of the staff rooms of this tucked-away facility. The stuffy facility staff alone made him want to get out of there. Be an electrician, they said. Yeah, no one else has to drive hours in this godforsaken desert for a damn light bulb. He shifted to his work truck before stopping in place. A look of blank confusion, not unlike a dazed livestock animal, was plastered to his face. This changed quickly, however, with an irritated grimace taking shape. Oh, damn it all. Of course I forget my damn tools. Quickly rushing back to the facility, he slung open the metal door with haste so he could get back home before that damn monsoon flooded the area. Not even 2 steps in, he began to stumble as the scene before him caused his whole body to lurch back, like a car suddenly hitting a large solid wall at full speed. The view before him didn't... No. It couldn't make sense. By all rights, it had no reason to be real. But in front of him, the once pristine and cold white hallway to the main office was now coated in thick black smoke damage and massive scars caused by what looked like damage from a gigantic plasma torch that decorated the walls. Each mark was made up of 2 parallel lines. The damage was clean except at the base, as if the initial contact with whatever did this caused heavy tearing by heat. Only a light or two dimly flickered from the ceiling above, trying to maintain their existence, however futile it would be. The rest were either busted or hanging slightly, electricity occasionally cracking from the torn and mangled wires. What the hell is this? The shock alone prevented him from saying more than that. He found himself being drawn to the main door. What could have happened beyond those walls? As scared as he was, he couldn't help but want to discover for himself what happened, even as the rational part of his mind screamed to run. He knew, however, if he left now and reported it, he would never know what happened. The government wouldn't expose this to the public. No way. His curiosity got the better of him. Besides, he did have to get his tools. With a renewed confidence, he felt his legs move forward one slow step at a time. It was a rather disconnecting feeling, his legs moving automatically, but as if they did so on their own. His subconscious was still trying to fight for control, for survival's sake. He traced the outline of the burned cuts on the wall, a new sensation filling his nose as he stood in front of the pure white door with the words, "Personnel only," secured on the top half. A scent mix of charcoal and rotten meat stifled the already stale air. Wyatt found himself frozen, hand on the doorknob, trying to convince himself to discover what this proverbial Pandora's box would open to reveal. "Come on, body. I've already gotten this far. Don't quit on me now," he said as his hands shook some, his free hand pulling at one of his belt loops to calm himself. Soon the knob twisted, and he opened the door quickly. What sounded like a swarm of flies buzzed in front of him. On the ground lay contorted and twisted at an unnatural angle the corpse of the front desk woman. Her torso was severed almost completely. The wound was large and nasty, but also cauterized. It was as if someone swung a red-hot poker so hard it forcibly separated one's chest from their legs with a nasty ripping effect. Her lower half was twisted where the flesh connected, facing down. The upper half, however, was facing up at him, a look of pure shock and horror. Her eyes seemed to be pleading for her existence to be spared, the hands reaching out as to block something, gripped in a final, futile rage. He only just now realized he was on his knees. They must have buckled, along with his will, at the grotesque sight before him. In that moment, his eyes surveyed the rest of the room with fervent horror. Bodies everywhere, all either completely cut in half or gashed so deep they might as well have been. Equally disturbing was the lack of blood. The effect of cauterization on all the slashes was the only thing saving this room from being a literal bloodbath. Shakily, he raised his hand to the desk beside him, trying to comprehend how in 30 seconds' time such a destructive massacre could have unfolded. Like if the hand of the devil himself outstretched and in one foul move swiped all their souls away. His nausea would be put on hold when in a moment of surprise he felt his hand touching something coarse on the desk. Kind of like sandpaper? No, it was too rounded. His eyes would glance down to see the sandwich the front desk lady had been eating when he left. It was stale as a rock, but how? Sparking from a torn-in-half PC lit the room up for a singular second, enough time to see the door to the main facilities room slightly ajar, with two of those plasma-burned claw marks placed as if gripping it. He hadn't been allowed back there. His tools and excuse for coming back were in a narrow hallway to the right that contained the staff lounge. The tools could wait a bit longer. That main door, with its melted metal latches and thick iron frame, called to him. So, Wyatt would answer that call, shifting through the carnage like a wandering zombie. In truth, he believed this had to be a nightmare, and what would it hurt to see how it played out, right? He was fully running on adrenaline and delusion. Pushing the metal door open revealed yet another hallway. This one was smaller, with only 3 rooms and another metal door at the end with a warning sign posted to it. More plasma marks were scraped against the walls and the doors. Each room filled with a mess of papers strode out from destroyed desk. The final room to the right again smelled like rotting flesh. Looking inside the dark room, a man was slumped on the floor. He was only visible from the stomach down. He was wearing nice clothing and what appeared to be a lab coat. A rotten apple stood on the desk. If the sandwich was any clue, this more than likely wasn't rotten when he left earlier. The scientist's name ID was on a lanyard. Dr. Kyle Baker, huh? Seems you weren't lucky either, Wyatt proclaimed without thinking. Instead of a nasty gash, it appeared whatever did this stabbed him through the chest, not unlike a sword. He had almost left the room before noticing a mobile tape recorder in the scientist's left hand. It was popped open and would be empty, however. That's weird. Looks like he was recording something. Where'd the tape go? Wyatt pondered this for another minute before going to find the final door. His answer was contained in this room. He could feel it. As the broken door swung open, Wyatt would discover the lights of this room were still functioning. A few piles of ash dotted the room, about as large as a small trash can. Leaning down, he pressed his hand to one, feeling a hard object rub against his fingers. By digging deeper, he would pull out a slightly melted object. Outpost for security? It was a badge, which only meant one thing. He quickly tossed it, wiping his hands off. The security teams never stood a chance. His attention was quickly drawn to a slight crumbling noise. Following the source with his eyes, in the center of the room, metal stairs that were stained purple by intense heat led up to a massive object. It was in the shape of an omega symbol. It was made from a thick stone, engraved in odd markings with a strange shiny metal over its entire surface. The edges at the bottom crumbled slightly from some form of physical damage. Wyatt would rush to it after noticing a tape player on the top of the stairs. Reaching the top, he would see 3 tapes laid out neatly beside it. The first 2 were labeled Temporal Log Number 1 and Temporal Log Number 2, while the final one had no written markings, but shared similar engravings to the actual object towering above him. Reaching out his hand, he grabbed tape number 1. I guess I better start from the beginning, right? With that, he popped the tape in and clicked play.
This is Temporal Log 1, recorded by head researcher Dr. Baker. Today we begin official testing on our new portal, codenamed Domain of Gods. Through proper wavelength tests connected with the stone, we believe we have found the perfect one to activate it. This test cements man's role as the true gods of existence. Once we can make changes to problems before they happen, we won't need religion anymore.
What? Dethrone God? Were these guys serious? Why can't these lab coat stiffs ever say anything normally? He was frustrated that he couldn't fully understand the meaning of the tape. All he knew was that this portal was named the Domain of the Gods. He switched the tapes anyway and quickly pressed play.
Temporal Log 2. I must rescind my previous declarations, as it seems things beyond our imagination lie in the abyss of time. I take full responsibility for the deaths of my co-workers. I sustained this madness. As far as I know, I'm all that's left. I thought I heard Dr. Ramirez earlier, but that's not possible. Because I watched her get grabbed a few hours ago, I'm sure. How many hours has it been? No, how many days? This is all my fault. If anyone finds this, please destroy that gate to the Inferno before humanity is wiped away. Please. Oh God, please. Wait, I think I hear...
That explains how I found him. But how did these tapes get here? He was too busy monologuing, I couldn't get any damn answers. As bad as he felt for the man, he couldn't help but be irritated by the lack of actual information. He popped the second tape out, then lifted the third one, looking over its strange, shiny engravings buried into the tape. Well, third time's the charm, he remarked as he popped it in, clicking play. The player warbled and ran hot, smoking some as the engravings glowed a light blue on the tape. A high-pitched whine began before white noise took over, and finally, a garbled, spine-chilling voice filled the space around him completely. The room was shaking as the Domain of the Gods engravings glowed in the same color as the tape as it spoke.